Welcome to Storycomic Presents, where we interview amazing storytellers and artists. This is episode 308. I'm your host, Barney Smith of Storycomic.com, and we're excited to have back with us the internationally acclaimed and award-winning writer of speculative fiction, novels, and short stories, our dear friend, Morgan Quaid.
Ahoy, hoy! Hello.
Morgan, how you doing?
I'm very good, thank you, sir. Very good on this shiny, bright, sunny, you can't see it, but there's sun out there. Whatever this day is, I'm not sure. It's a Friday where I am, so end of the week.
That's right. You know, it's like I love talking to our Australian friends because you always talk to us from the future. So it's good to know that things are still okay in the future. So that's good. So, yeah.
They are. The world's still here. Politics is still politics. And everything else is pretty much the same. So there you go.
Yeah.
I think I have a little more hair growing out of my nose that I have to trim, which is a wonderful fact about getting older that I'm super thrilled about. But aside from that, not much has changed.
When we talked to you back in January, your YouTube channel is growing exponentially. You're also able to now have a successful Kickstarter so far that's been that you launched as of this recording as well. And we talk about a bit of that of the Dusk Witch. Mm-hmm. And also, that you are now part of the NE1 World's family with ASAP Imagination. You've been busy over the last few months. Yeah.
Yes, I am. I've done all the things all at once, because that's the way to do it. Don't plan anything. Don't schedule things out. Just do it all at once and hope for the best. But super happy with all that stuff, and super happy to be part of the ASAP Imagination family, and Paul Hades Hayden and Laurie and all the wonderful people and crazy individuals.
So talk to us a little bit about what titles you're able to bring over to ASAP Imagination's NE1 World.
It's funny that you should say that, because the first title, and I won't make a mistake of opening it, because there is some very mild nudity in here. And every time I open it up, it goes directly to that page. So I'll actually look first. So here we go. That's the sort of artwork that's going on there. So this is a series called Enmity. That one there.
Okay.
It is a story about a young woman roaming the post-apocalyptic world, searching for her deadbeat dad, who just happens to be Lucifer. So the twist here is that this whole post-apocalyptic world has come about because Lucifer is fed up with his day job and essentially one day just decides that's it, I'm done. I'm not doing it anymore. And in this imagined world, Lucifer isn't so much the devil in the traditional sort of sense. He's more of an adversarial kind of, he maintains balance. So he makes sure that the good and the evil are kind of on a par so that things keep ticking along. So he whispers in the ears of people of power and gets them to do, not so great stuff and start wars and all of that sort of stuff. But he's just so bored with it that he just says, that's it, I'm done. And as a result of that, they find out in heaven essentially that he really is good at his job and he's subtle, and when he's not there, things go haywire and go bad very, very quickly. War in heaven, the whole thing happens, and right in the middle of this, Lucifer basically goes on a bender. He quits, he goes on a bender, he drinks, he does everything, he sleeps around, and then consequently 9 months later, this girl named Daisy is born, and she grows up in this post-apocalyptic world. Her mother dies tragically as she reaches, I think she's 18 or 16. I should know this. I wrote the thing. But anyway, she's a teenager. Her mother dies, and her mother's dying words are essentially, find your father. So she is not aware who her father is. She's just searching for him. But for those in the know, her father is Lucifer.
But you have some other series in there as well that are available.
Well, yeah. So the Enmity series has two main books. So the first two you see up the top there, they're the main story. So issue 1 and issue 2, which is that story that I was talking about, focusing on Daisy. There's a behind the scenes book, which sort of shows you early artwork and a bit of the, theory behind the story and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, cool.
But I very, very cleverly also launched 3 other comics, which are sort of side issues within the same universe. So one of them is called Raven Running. The other one's called Kira Burns. And I very shrewdly named them after their title characters, which is a girl named Raven and a girl named Kira. And the reason why is because they are also daughters of Lucifer. So it turns out Daisy is not the only one. The problem is, by launching those books, I've already given away a huge chunk of the story, because in the first two comics you don't know that yet, but like until the end. So anyway, I've kind of given that one away. But essentially, there are there's more than one daughter. There's a bunch of the daughters. So the larger story is about how these daughters find each other and come together, and how they face the new threat to humankind and everything, and try and force their father into doing the right thing and actually helping them, whereas all he wants to do is just drink and doesn't care and just let it all burn.
Right.
So Raven Running is a Enmity 1 and 2 are full color. Raven Running is a black and white story. It's very fast paced, and it's about a girl named Raven, who's, as I said, sister to Daisy. Kira Burns is a larger book. It's a black and white, kind of manga-esque, but not really manga, style graphic novel. And that follows the daughter named Kira, and her journey is quite different again. Obviously, there's fire involved, a bit of a Firestarter sort of vibe.
Right.
So those stories kind of converge and get you to where issue 2 is and where issue 3 will be, and where they all kind of meet. And then Crow is a side story about a figure called Crow, who inhabits a crow within the story, who is actually a demonic kind of character that inhabits a crow. So yeah, they're all kind of connected, and all you will notice, and this was not planned, all done by different artists. So maybe we scrub that bit where I say it wasn't planned, and we say another genius plan from Morgan Quaid to get different artists for each of them. Essentially, I did the first book, was started on the second one, was already halfway through, and then we had war in Ukraine, and I was working with a Russian creative outfit. Great people, wonderful people, but then it was kind of like, well, I can't keep, there were, there was a stop that, in Australia to that sort of thing. So I had to sort of, out of an abundance of caution, stop. So I had to find another artist. So I went with Dave Schwartz, who did issue 2, amazing artwork, amazing artist. And the others I was building simultaneously. So I got other artists to do those. So all of them are from different artists, which is.
And so is there going to be more part of any more stories that you have planned out already for the Enmity world that you've created?
Yeah, so there's at least another 1 or 2 main issues. It'll be 2 issues now that I think about it to close out the main story. And then I may do a few other side issues, because there is at least one more sister that hasn't been mentioned yet. So there's room there for more of that sort of stuff. But yeah, I'd really wanting to close off the story and get to the kind of crunch point where it's all, the world is ending and everything's going to burn and rah, 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 and you have these, teenage girls standing up against, demonic forces and trying to get their deadbeat dad to sort of help out in some way. And we'll see what happens. But yeah, definitely planned.
And so talk to us a little bit about, also, we mentioned before, you have a Kickstarter that's doing really well.
I do, yeah. So this is a different project. This is it's called Dusk Witch. It is a New Orleans based. There you go. Yeah, a New Orleans based horror urban fantasy style book, black and white with a kind of watercolor vibe. The artist is David Lujan. His stuff is amazing. So it's the first book we've worked on together, but we've done some other stuff together, and it's just so amazing. Then there's the covers that he produced, and that sort of, I don't know how to describe it, but that, the really vibrant colors and that sort of stuff, it just looks amazing. So yeah, he's doing that. We're doing this, or I'm doing this with Lesser Known Comics, great comic publisher. So working with those guys on the project, it's really exciting. It's it's one of those ones. I mean, so it's the same with Enmity and with this one. I guarantee there are things in there you've never seen.
Okay.
And particularly with this one, you'll see the first scene. Essentially, she's at a funeral, um, leaning down to break the finger off a dead man in the casket and take it with her as she leaves. There you go. That's her with the finger. So there's lots going on there. So essentially, it's magic and mayhem and creatures and all of that sort of stuff. The broader world of the story, if you like, is that there are forces at work within humanity and within the world that are uh, gambling on how long humanity will survive. I'll put it that way. And she is an agent for one of those forces. But yeah, lots of weird monsters and creepy stuff going on. There's a kind of grizzled detective figure that gets caught up within the story as it goes through. And yeah, some great artwork, great covers. There's 4 covers to choose from. Right. There's also, so that's a pack with David's other work there. Yuriko and Nerida, great stories in their own right. So you can kind of get a pack that gets all of his stuff that he's done so far, which is really cool. There's T-shirts, and we've just got stickers. Oh, and a poster as well. So the stuff he does is so good. It just looks really cool. And you can get like a lesser known comics bundle that gets you a whole pack of titles from lesser known comics, including the Dusk Witch. Yeah, so it's heaps of fun. Really enjoying it, and people seem to be responding well, which is good. So they you can also buy the bundle, which just has all of my digital stuff. Everyone's going to get, every physical backer gets the die cut sticker. And once we get to 130 backers, we're going to have a bookmark. I don't know what that looks like yet because David's still drawing it, but we're going to reveal that later. And then just announced today an MP3 album, Dusk Witch, which includes the title song, which is in the video of the series.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so some pretty cool. Oh yeah, this is really cool as well. David did this. So that's me, obviously. That's Mark, who runs Lesser Known Comics, and that's David down there. Yeah. Pretty cool. Always a thrill when you can get your face, redone in the style of the comic. So I was so happy when he sent that through.
And so with this, the Dusk Witch, how does this fit into like the whole the larger like Quaidiverse or something like that?
It's kind of, so as a writer, you do, I don't know if other people have this, but I have a limited scope. And I don't know whether that's everyone or it's just me, but I will fixate on an idea for a period of a couple of years, and then everything I write is kind of trying to work through that cool idea that I really like. So a couple of the ideas that I'm still obsessed with, one is alternate worlds, which I don't think will ever change. The idea that there's worlds impinging on our own and things bleed through from one reality to the other. Pardon me. That stuff, I love it. Always have. So everything I write will have some component of that within it. I love the idea of tattoos, which are either sentient or have some sort of magical quality, or something like that. So tattoos which is ironic because I don't have any. Maybe that's why I don't have any tattoos and never will get one. But so through, vicariously through my characters, I can have tattoos. So that's another thing. The other thing is magic, and magic systems, if you like, that are weird and have some visceral connection to body and blood and bone and that sort of thing. So within Dusk Witch, the magic that she uses is triggered by her either consuming human flesh or and not living, dead. So it's okay. Sorry. So it's fine if they're dead. Or consuming the bones of the dead. So she'll kind of snap a bone and it'll go to dust, and that will engage her magic. A series I've written, novel series called The Seven Hungers, that focuses on one of the main characters there. The way that they engage their magic gift is the more wounded they get, the more their kind of power increases because of some connection they have with this demon sort of creature, if you like.
Oh, cool.
So it's like the worse he gets, the more powerful he becomes. But he kind of has to wound himself to, There's another one coming up next month with Comics to Movies called Bloodsmith. It's a kind of 19th century occult detective kind of situation. A guy there who he can use his blood as a weapon. So he has to sort of cut himself to, all that sort of stuff. So I like those sorts of things as well. And in terms of Dusk Witch, the alternate world is this realm called Dusk, which sits outside of our reality. And that's where she's from. And I won't give too much away, but essentially that's where that other world is. Right. Whereas in Enmity, it's a bit more of a traditional, it's kind of heaven and hell, but it's more heaven and earth. There is no other hell. It's heaven, and then the fallen angels are on earth. So earth becomes kind of this hellish place. But the narrative swaps between heaven and earth. But even within that, there are other worlds that the angels travel to and, war against other enemies and all that sort of stuff. So it probably all harkens back to, I don't really write traditional fantasy, epic fantasy, but I love epic fantasy, have for years. So whatever I write ends up having that, kind of sprawling epic sci-fi and fantasy tint to it.
What makes you decide when something needs to fit within a comic book as instead of, say, like a long prose medium?
Well, okay, so classic example, it's more of a logistical question than the story question, if I put it that way. So it comes down to write a novel at my fastest pace will take me 2 months to get a decent draft out for a novel. That's if everything is aligned and I'm kind of, really knocking through, the word count fairly quickly. So that's 2 months. To write a comic script for an issue, or 24 pages or 28 pages, if I'm really, really on fire with an idea, I'll knock that out in a day. So that means I can do a lot more, a lot quicker with the comic writing without having to invest that huge amount of time, because it's really the artist that invests the time rather than me as the writer. So that tends to be one of the reasons why I go in that direction. The Enmity is actually an interesting one because it's both. So there is a book. It's called Searching for Dad in the Apocalypse. I haven't released it yet, but that's the novelized version of the story. So some are great for both, and that was actually originally a novel idea that I turned into a comic. But yeah, it usually comes down to how much time have I got, and is it willing to invest in this as a series versus a single book? Because a series is always better because there's more chance of people kind of following and buying the rest of the novels. Yeah. Whereas these days, I'm trying to be a little bit more, instead of starting a comic series and saying, this is going to be 10 comics long, which is inordinately expensive and will take forever, and who knows if the world's going to be around by then. Instead of doing that, I tend to limit everything to 3 issues as a maximum now. So I know I can get it done with the same artist, and it's the risk is significantly less. Or I'll produce it in a graphic novel size as just a one-off, and then maybe later do another one. Whereas with novels, you just write and write and write, and then edit, and then write, and then edit some more, and then it just goes on and on and on and on and on. And it's great fun. It's amazing. Don't get me wrong, but there's a much longer game to get those things out there, and they take a lot out of you. Whereas the comics, okay, so to give an example, 3 weeks ago, I wrote a script for a new comic, which hasn't been released yet. It's going to be called Grimoire Girl. It's about a girl who is searching for her brother who has been taken down to hell, essentially. Demons kind of walk the earth, but they're incognito, and there's a sort of secret society or a government-run society trying to knock them down and all that sort of stuff. And this grimoire girl basically has tattoos all over her body, which are from a demonic grimoire that she, managed to get imprinted on her skin. So she uses that to kind of, fight demons to try and hunt down, find her brother. So it's a pretty simple premise. It's a manga style book. It's lots of action. It's lots of quirky, funny characters and all that sort of stuff. It took me a couple of days to write. Found an amazing artist. It's 3 weeks later, and I'm 4 pages away from completing that book. So within a month. Now this artist was amazing, and he's been able to push through very quickly, and he just happened to have time on his plate to do it. So all the stars aligned, but that tells you I've got a book within a month from start to finish, ready to go. A novel, I've still got another month of just writing at a minimum, and that's the first draft. And then once you finish the first draft is always terrible. You have to go back and edit several times to make it, an actual book. Then you've got to get it edited by someone else, because I can't see my own spelling mistakes and those sorts of things. Then you get it proofread, then you get beta readers, and then you're ready to release it. So it's like a 6-month turnaround to do all of that stuff for one book, whereas comic done in a month. Amazing.
What would you say is like the Morgan Quaid theme or that signature for all of your work?
It is fast-paced, quippy, a lot of action, but so so probably the way I describe my novels is first-person, fast-paced urban fantasy with horror elements, set against a backdrop of a massive, sprawling, imaginative world. So I don't explore that whole world, so you're not going to read one of my books and get like a 5-paragraph description of the hillside, in this alien world or whatever necessarily. It'll only be as the character is sort of thrust into that world, you'll sort of see that. But it's that wasn't a great description. It's all the elements I was describing: alternate worlds, wacky magic sort of stuff, high stakes end of the world, and my characters will bleed and be permanently injured, and so it's not written like a sitcom. You don't reset in book 2 and everything's we're all just exactly like we were. No, someone has lost a limb, someone has lost an eye, someone has a deep internal trauma that they carry with them, and that becomes part of their personality as they move to the next thing. So that's probably the other thing, is some sort of trauma that moves on with the characters.
Right.
And weirdness, a lot of weirdness. Wherever I can get weirdness in there. There's a series I did where a currency that's used to exchange information is a severed big toe. So the detective has to sort of find a big toe and give it to this creature to get information from him. Anything with a bit of weirdness in it, I love. So,
have you ever thought about writing like some books that are like just pink and full of unicorns and just cotton candy or anything like that?
So I've written short pieces that are not that, but that are very emotive and very real and very genuine about people that I've known, and quite, emotionally intense, but very short, because I've got a limited amount of space in my head for that. I have experimented. I should never have done it, but I have experimented with romance, because 2 things occurred to me. First of all, romance books sell better than anything else. I thought, okay. Secondly, there are many different types of romance. So you can do urban fantasy, you can do sci-fi, you can do anything. So I thought, here we go. I will start writing. I will be a romance writer now. Have I ever read a romance book? No. Do I know what the genre is about? No, not at all. Do I have a clue what I'm doing? No, of course not. So I start writing. Then I learn that the trick in romance, or one of the tricks in romance, is you use many, 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 many words and nothing happens. So it's all about the emotion and the will they, won't they, and the tension and all that sort of stuff. My books within 2 chapters, the world will have changed half a dozen times. I can't write that way. I don't take my time. Things are happening all the time. So I very quickly realized and got a bit of feedback from romance readers. Yeah, that's not romance, buddy. What you're writing is not. Just because you stick some romantic stuff in there, that's not actually romance. And then I realized I can't do that. That's just beyond me. So a fluffy thing, if it's funny and it's quirky, maybe. I did write an all ages sort of comedy comic called Twiggy of the Bog about this little guy who fancies himself a hero, but he's just a little kid with a hammer. And he's just sort of, it's just a sort of comedy of errors as he goes along. He meets a wizard on the side of the road and trades all his money for this seed that he's supposed to plant, but he ends up eating it because he thinks it's something he should eat. And then as a result, a boil grows on his shoulder, who's a sentient boil who has the spirit of an old wizard in there and all that sort of stuff. So it's not all sunshine and unicorns, but it's funny and it's fun. But I don't know. Maybe in the future I could do it. It's very hard to curtail the impulse to go very quickly to either dark or weird or otherworldly or any of that sort of stuff. I find it very difficult. And I've tried a bunch of different genres, and it's kind of like in the last 10 years I've settled on, well, this is where I really sit well, and this is the stuff I write well and enjoy. So I pretty much stick to that for the most.
So do you write for yourself, or do you find a book that you think is there's a readership for?
I have traditionally always done the former. I've always written for myself. Right. It's only recently that I've started, particularly with the novels. So I'll give you the classic case. So urban fantasy, love the genre. I'm not in love with a lot of the books in that genre. And classic books, and I certainly don't do paranormal romance or any of that sort of stuff. But I like the idea of magic set in a real world kind of setting and all that sort of stuff. So started writing that. Wrote a series. You can see it up there, Crimson King and Brian Council's part of the Seven Hunger series. Started writing that, going really well. Then I'm informed, that the most popular urban fantasy books are all have female leads. And if you don't have that, you're already kind of behind the 8 ball, because people will buy what they recognize. So if they see a cover with admittedly a handsome gentleman on there, but not the female lead that they're expecting, they're less likely to buy. So that's an example of, okay, the next series that I'm midway through writing now, which kind of pivots a little bit from this series, has a female lead, because I like writing female leads. I think they're great. It's easy enough for me to switch, but it's a conscious decision because I know I'm also likely to get twice the traffic purely because of that one thing. It's not a big enough thing for me as a writer that I think, no, I have to have male leads. So I can change it. Then there's also the type of cover. When I first started writing novels, I was using comic artists to do the covers. So they looked great, but they look like graphic novels, not like urban fantasy novels. So I had to completely redo the covers myself. So the covers you see there on the Seven Hungers, I rebuilt those myself after a bit of research to find out, what does that reader actually expect to see? So it's this interesting thing, because on the one hand, I know a lot of artists have this thing where it's like, I don't want to sell out. I don't want to just give people what they want. But by the same token, if they don't see something they recognize, they're never going to pick it up. So you're already sort of, cutting off your nose to spite your face, because you can't get it to them to even get them past the initial blocker to start reading and then decide whether they like the series or not. So I thought, if that's a barrier, I need to remove that sort of barrier. The next step for me, which I haven't done yet, I do have a lot of the tropes that kind of work with the genre in my writing. But it's still very much, if you pick up any of these books, within a couple of chapters, you'll be thinking, oh yeah, Morgan wrote this. There are broken bones and weird magic and all sorts of stuff going on. Yeah, he must have written this. So it's still within that area. What I'm looking at next, though, is, which I've never done except for the romance debacle, trying to target a series directly to be almost as a hook, to try and be popular. Not to try and be popular, but to try and be as broad as possible, but still something that I can write and enjoy, and not, I can't write stuff that I'm not going to read and enjoy. So it's never going to be exactly like the, other books that are hugely famous in a genre that I'm just not, I can't do that with. So it's kind of a balance that I'm striking. With the comics, it's slightly different, because with the comics, I've just done anything I wanted to do, because it just feels like I'm playing in a magical, playground with these amazing artists, and I get to do whatever I want. So, and to see your words become, a living, breathing thing that you can see and touch and everything is just amazing, and kind of addictive. So until now, I haven't really, I've just gone with whatever I wanted to do. But I have noticed, again, the female leads do better than the males. And there are certain, anything with a manga-esque style tends to do better, because the kids, they love the manga. So I'm thinking a little bit more on the business side now, and about how to not sell out, but how to, because honestly, there is a very, very easy way. And I don't want to say this is necessarily selling out, because I don't want to insult people. But if I want to, triple the size of my Kickstarters and sell books, the series you see up the top, Shadow's Daughter, that's probably one of my most popular series. All I would need to do is have the main character on the front cover, fully nude, and very presenting all of the lady parts, full on. And you'll sell a lot better, because those things tend to do very well. But for me, that doesn't work, because that's not what I'm selling. What I'm selling is it's in a fantasy world, but I'm selling a real person. I want to sell a person with a story that struggles and all that, and a character, rather than just selling stuff that is appealing because it's, large chested.
So Morgan, if people want to learn more about your work, where's the best place they could go to?
So there's a few places you can go. If you go to morganquaid.com, you'll see, everything, links and all that sort of stuff. You'll see my novel, and you can kind of get involved in the mailing list and get a free copy of the novel and all that sort of stuff. There we go. So you'll start to see all of that. YouTube as well. All the links are basically on there, so it'll take you to YouTube, all that sort of stuff. If you're wanting to pick up Enmity and another book that I'll quickly show you in a tick, head to Any One World, and you will find the whole series up there ready to go. No matter what time of day it is, even when I'm sleeping, it's still available for you for purchase on the website there. So yeah, so head to Any One World or ASAP Imagination, search the Morgan Quaid collection, and there you go. They're all in there.
Right.
The other one that is coming very, very soon to Any One World is this one here, The Crimson Folly.
The Crimson Folly. Yeah.
Amazing. The artwork in this thing is just incredible. It is a D&D inspired story that takes place within a fantasy tavern. There were like 15 different artists involved in the project. It's got 2 stories side by side. It's a big book. And as part of the launch, we're going to run a kind of D&D style one shot online with some of the characters from the story. So that's going to be heaps and heaps of fun. And that's coming to Any One World really, really soon. There you go. Yeah, that was the Kickstarter I ran for it. The Crimson Fold. Right. Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, excellent. By all means, if you see this before the end of the month, get on and support Dusk Witch. It's an amazing project, great book, lots of fun.
Yeah, once again, Morgan, it's always great to spend time with you. This is always fun. Yeah.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me on again, Barney. And apologies for the many words that I have said without thinking.
They were beautiful words. Yes,
oh, thank you.
They're beautiful. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Morgan.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
These lenses, when I asked for like the name of the style of it, you know what they call these? The style of glasses, the frame style?
What?
They call it the Morgan Quaid, so that's pretty interesting. So
Well, I'm glad
yeah,
that the word's getting
yeah.
out there because I've been everywhere I go. Have you seen these Morgan Quay glasses? Are quite quite extraordinary. It's good that it's getting out there. I've been doing that for 10, 20 years, so the word's
Right.
getting
Yeah.
out.
See. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know how to
See. Everybody. Yeah.
monetize that
Every,
exactly, but it's got to
yeah.
be something.
Yeah. Yeah. Morgan Quaid. He's big. He's big in America. See, everybody talks about Morgan Quaid here.
Oh, absolutely. No one does in Australia. It's all just.